We're
We
on
thought,
again.
what?
We're on again. It's another recording of
On again, off again, right? La, 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 la. We just, it was my suggestion that we start taping, even though we are not yet where we had planned to be, because Troy opened the conversation with dog spirits, and he's in Bhutan. You understand, right? We got different spirits here in the U.S., but that's all temporary. Okay. Troy, why don't you let him in? Just catch him up a little bit on what we were talking about. You may find this interesting. I did.
So we were talking about, I mean, actually, what sparked it was a dog in the background, and you may hear dogs barking from time to time. And definitely, in the history of listening to our previous episode, there's, I'm sure, 100% chance from the series that I've done here that you'll hear a dog. And what I was just explaining, because I was asking a good friend who's Pasang, actually, is a monk who I kind of call him, I do call him my lama, but he's not in that space, and he's doing his own
thing. He's not
from
Peru either, is he?
No. You met Pasang, Danny. We went there to his place one time, and saw where he was staying.
In the bus station?
Yes, the bus station.
Oh, what a treasure. Wow. I think this guy has, second sight. So I'm even more interested now.
Right.
Just, I don't know what people would call the salt of the earth, or the guy who would give you the shirt off his back.
Exactly.
And not think about it. Like, well, that's what I'm here for.
Exactly.
Anyway, very interesting man.
Yes.
Go ahead with your story. Now I know who you're talking about.
So, I was talking to Pasang about all the dogs, and he was telling me, like, dogs, why there's so many dogs here in Bhutan is because the dog is the animal that spirits take over, are in before, in this sequence of reincarnation, the one stage before human. And Bhutan is like a mecca of spirits, and the spirits want to reincarnate as a human being in Bhutan. And that's why there's so many dogs here, because they're waiting. I mean, they're doing their last kind of service as a non-human until they die, and if they are in this region, the wish is, and the hope, I guess, is that they reincarnate as a human, as a Bhutanese, and then live their life as a human being until, if they're a good human being, then reincarnate and then reach that next stage of enlightenment. And the reason the dogs bark,
dog human enlightenment, that's it. That's all it takes.
I mean,
boy, did I
as
miss
I was saying, this is my, I guess, naive interpretation of what he was talking about. And I'm not probably doing it justice in my summarization.
It's interesting. Keep rolling.
Yeah, but and then the reason why the dogs bark is because they're actually barking at spirits that are unaware of, they've actually moved to the next realm, and the dogs that can see that, and that's part of the dog's duty, is to inform or clean up the spirit realm, and and let the people or the spirit know that, hey, you're dead now, please move on, you're not belonging here.
Uh-huh. Well, couldn't they be the spirits of other dogs who died?
That's right. I mean,
And they're sort of saying conversation with fellow dogs, saying, hey, dog, you're not supposed to be here, man. Look at me. I'm in a body. What about you? What happened to you? You're waiting for a vacancy in a human body.
Right, right.
There are few people around here who need a spirit.
Humans without spirits.
And if you got an extra soul, bring one with you. Well, that's all very, very interesting. Well, maybe very, very interesting. Because, it's kind of like, I'll make a comparison here, where in this country, people are living thinking that something is going wrong because what is happening is not what they believe should be happening.
Right.
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 So they're experiencing discontent. They're restless spirits, we might call them, right? I feel some of these things too. Of course, I live in a haunted house, this place, long tradition. But I don't bark, okay? I don't bark. Maybe I should. I could try it later on, but not on the air. And so, spirits, yeah. It's kind of these people who like, all right, let me bring it down to base. It's like you expect people to have a culture based on the Constitution, let's say. Okay. Declaration of Independence, short history of the United States. Then you run aground with the Civil War. And what the Civil War, or the War of Northern Aggression, as we like to call it, happened was because people like Hillary, for instance, or better yet, Pelosi, women, they see a different world, like the dog. Okay. Right? Okay. They see a world that is not bound by a constitution, by a history of the United States, that they are principally attempting to recreate the United States in a way in which the founding fathers, these might be the founding mothers, excuse my pronunciation, but they're not looking at things like most people do. It's like, well, I thought you give presents at Christmas, or it's my birthday, aren't we going to celebrate, or anything, right? So what's happening is they have a vision that is not in sync with most other people's visions, right? Okay. And I equate that with sort of like, being lost, like the dog spirit, right? Of all these lost spirits around, or disembodied spirits, or ghosts, or, whatever you want to call them, because I'm sure they all take on different forms. And I don't believe that any of the present ghosts are really inventing anything that hasn't been done before, right? So that's kind of my equation for what it is you're talking about dogs is, and a lot of us are still thinking we're off track, right? Right. So, but I suppose we should get a dog. Maybe. Yeah, get a dog. And around here, I don't think the dog would stop barking. Yeah. I feel like somebody shut that dog up. Right. Like, not a chance, man. He's in touch with spirits. You don't want to piss a spirit off. What would happen if you pissed a spirit off? Well, because they're in a spiritual stage, or a spirit stage, and they're presumably looking to get out of the cockroach body and become a human again. Right. How do they know what to do other than bark at loose spirits? It's sort of like are you helping anything? You know, why are you doing it? Or reason is not a part of it. It's sort of like a wind-up dog, you know, wind it up, it comes out as a puppy. And then, you know, around here, I'll tell you what people do. they they chain the dog up.
Okay.
My friends have a wire, right?
Yeah.
And they put a clip on the wire and a chain to a chain around the dog's neck, so the dog, who is chained forever, gets to run up and down the wire, right? And then when it gets to the end of it, it's like, okay, I guess that means I have to stop. Or some of them, they get to the end and they start dancing on two legs. They do that, which is like if you're sitting in my house, for instance, and your neighbor gets a new dog. Well, he's very comfortable sitting inside his house, watching TV or, you know, doing whatever, while the dog outside is experiencing his limitations.
Right.
It's like, I want to run free. I don't want to at the end of the chain anymore. Or if something, a loose spirit or a deer or a squirrel or, you know, a blade of grass, then they're out there rah, 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 all the time, because they reach a point of, it has to be agony.
Okay.
And oh yeah. And once they settle down and realize, maybe it comes from slave mentality, which a lot of these people bring with them from their history, right? So they're teaching that dog how to be a slave.
Okay.
Your purpose is to jump up and down when you see me. I'm so happy to see the guy who incarcerated you, right? Who's going to come over and give you some human touch, right? And maybe give you a bowl of dried food or some scraps from the table or whatever, you know. And that's your life. That's dog's life here in America, right? Unless, of course, I heard from my friend Carrie, who lives in Alameda in California, the Bay Area, yesterday. And I remember that they've got two dogs. I mean, just huge indoor dogs. And it's like, you know, what they bark. That's what they do. They bark. And I didn't tell you that story, did I?
I didn't think so. No.
And they buy deer horns for them and anything they can, you know, buffalo guts or whatever they need. But when I first moved here to occupy this ghost house, my neighbor across the field over there, he was had a dog, and he was like most people of his kind, whatever that is. I'm not going to speak further about that. Had a dog in the woods behind his house. He doesn't own that land, but you know, it's better than having the dog in your yard. So you just sort of borrow it from whoever owns it. And the dog, when a dog barks in the woods, it's like a double bark, right? And it echoes all over the trees and comes, and it amplifies the sound. So I went over there one day. I couldn't take it anymore. And I knocked on his door, and I said, "Hi, I'm your neighbor. I live right across the field there." And I said, I want to ask you why that. I was trying to start the conversation off on it. I didn't want to start it off with like, "Hey, you know, one with the dog. You see this?" Anyway, so I went. I said, "That dog is barking all the time." And he said something very, very memorable, very, very poetic, and very applicable to almost every situation in life. He said, "That's what they do. They bark."
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I went away dazed. It's like, okay. And you know, about 3 weeks later, I was telling somebody else that, and my friend said, "All the time?" That's what I should have said to him, you know, all the time. But I suppose, you know, it's the spirits of people who died during the War of Northern Aggression here that are still wandering around looking for. This world must be awfully full of spirits like that. Dogs and spirits, huh? Okay.
But the aspect of that I just want to reiterate, I guess, is dogs, not just dogs, but almost, I mean, any animal, they know what to do in life. If you're a dog, you'd be a dog. I mean, cats are great at doing it. I mean, you have a couple of cats, and they know how
15 as of 2 weeks ago.
They know how to be a cat. They're not like, oh, what am I, like a human compared. We kind of get lost. What are we going to do with our lives? Are we going to be, am I going to be, a doctor? Am I going to be a lawyer? Am I going to be an astronaut? But we have to kind of discover that. But a cat is a cat. It knows it's a cat, and it does what a cat does. It just, is great at being a cat. And it doesn't actually argue with that or think about that. The cats and the dogs, they do what they know. Somehow they just know this is what I got to do, whether it's barking or lazing around a house like a cat.
And we come in and look at the dog and say, why don't you, scratch trees like the cats do?
Sure.
They said, that's not what I do. I bark.
That's right. That's it.
Okay, my mistake. Yeah, what's the matter with him, man? I'm a dog. I bark, right? That's what they do. They bark. And I told us, man, I tell you what, now it's like all over the state.
Sure.
Because it's, we misidentify ourselves, It's sort of like, well, your granddaddy never climbed that tree, right? And it's like, that means you, as his descendant, has to climb that tree.
Right.
Like, I don't want to climb that tree, but you have to. When you're taught that, from the moment that you pop out into this world, and it's like, the next doctor in the family is like, oh, really? I don't want to be a doctor. Okay, you don't want to be a doctor. How about a football player? Then I feel like Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Wants to be a brain surgeon. He can't decide between being a brain surgeon and a streetcar conductor, because the streetcar conductor has this little change thing, that when people get on and pay him, he gets just to put out the coins, and that's what it's all about. There must be some parallel between brain surgery and a streetcar conductor. But I think it would be really hard to find that out now, because I don't know, in the US at least, there are not a lot of streetcars anymore.
Sure.
You got streetcars in Australia?
We have the trams. I mean, in Melbourne, in Sydney, they just bought them in Brisbane, in the Gold Coast. They were like, oh, we're upgrading. We're not going to use trams anymore, roads. But it was a huge mistake. They learnt from Melbourne, because Melbourne kind of maintained that heritage in that, acknowledgement of the past. And trams were always there, and they came back and made Melbourne one of the easiest cities to travel in. And then recently, after they kind of destroyed, pulled the rails up and the electrical wires down, they realized that was a mistake, and they rebuilt it in the Gold Coast. And now we've got the tram system. And if you hop on, I mean, in the olden, when they first had, you'd have that guy giving the tickets and you'd have to give the money and the change would come out, the ticket. But now it's all electronic. Well, you get a card. In that card, you put cash on. And when you jump on, you just tap it on a box. And then when you hop off, you tap it again and it knows how far you've come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They got something like that in Petersburg.
Okay.
A little tidbit of information for you on LA. When you when you go to LA, you'll see these medians, these big wide medians, right? No man's land, they call them.
Okay.
You got 2 lanes. This is like downtown Melville or some other street in Hollywood area. And you got a couple of lanes and then parking on one side and then on the other side. And I asked, I said, why are those things there? It's different in New Orleans, which has the same things. But they said, well, we used to have streetcars. And they would go down the center. We'll have streetcars again because nobody can afford the gasoline, right?
Sure.
And everybody start walking again. Hopefully nobody falls over because they will roll until they starve to death. So I said, well, why did they take them up? And he said, well, it was after World War II, right? And the automobile. And the people who really delivered the death blow, I think it was Firestone tires.
Oh.
Right. So they funded the demise of the railroad system. And then LA, when I was there, they started building underground in LA. It's like, I'm sorry, that's like earthquake zone. Right. I would never do it. And anyway, you can't control what people do. It's like, I got a friend that does subways. Well, let's get rid of the trams and put everything underground. And then here's the conversation and, put a few dollars in somebody else's pocket and you're ruling the public. Right. And that's why they don't carry dogs around, because the dogs would be barking all the time. That's what they do. They bark.
That's right.
God help us. So I think I'd like to make a proposal, because we're already like 30 minutes plus into this, that we forego what we were going to be talking about and lead up to what we will be talking about tomorrow, because you and I, we get distracted pretty easily, right? The world is full of so many fantastic things.
Exactly.
Really? Absolutely. Exactly. And we just get pulled in all different kinds of directions. So, but to lead up to some things that we have been talking about, if you don't mind, I'd like to show my point of view.
Yeah.
I looked at one of our tapings the other day and it was like, Danny, damn man, shut up. You're doing all the talking. It's like, give Troy a chance to talk, will you?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm keeping that in mind, but my mouth is like, I got diarrhea of the mouth. So anyway, back to our original intention was to describe the symbolic nature of our logo.
Exactly.
The octopus, right? And I know as you're tempted, Troy, I can feel it. I felt that pulse to go ahead and start talking about it now. But I want to create a little bit of a backstory so people can understand the significance of why we are going to disclose the importance of our logo.
Sure.
It's not just, there's a logo place I used to work with in South San Francisco. And they were, you go in the door, you give them your file of information, whatever you do. This was more or less pre-internet, the way we know it today. Yeah. And they would come up with, a little squiggly thing. And when people look at the little squiggly thing, they say, oh, yeah, that's cool, man. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? I've got my emblem, I've got my logo. And it was like, how can that be your logo when all they don't know who you are? They don't know what you stand for. They don't know your history. So I'm going to create a little bit of a backstory about what I think is going on. I think last night I ran across "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," which is a Coen Brothers movie. Have you ever seen it?
No. I
No.
don't think
It's fashioned after "So They Told Me" when I was watching, the part where they show you how the film was made, and you get to talk with the Coen brothers and things like that.
so.
And they said it's fashioned after the Odyssey. Now, if I remember correctly, that's Ulysses after the siege on Troy, not you, Troy, but some other place this time, in Greek lore. As they go around and they avoid different temptations, that they avoid the sirens singing from the rocks. I think Ulysses has to tie himself to the mast, and they run, just have a gay old time. And "Brother, Where Art Thou," with George Clooney as I think as the star, is going on an odyssey. He's following the Odyssey, but he doesn't know. He's just responding to stuff.
Okay.
They meet a black guy at the crossroads, and they ask him what he's doing there, and he says, I made a contract with the devil that I meet him at this here crossroads at midnight, and he'll teach me how to play this here guitar.
Okay.
And he said, he taught me really well. And one of them says, well, what does he look like? He says, oh, is he, red, and he got a pointed tail. And he said, oh, no. He looks like you white folks do. It's like, okay, it's our invention. So he said, what did you have? Did you have to give him anything to teach you how to play that guitar? And he said, well, I gave him my soul. And one of them says, you traded your soul to learn how to play the guitar? And he looks at him and he says, I wasn't using it.
Right.
So I think there should be a lot of guitar players around here.
Right.
Anyway, so you can see that one of the things that we do offer, and I'll do a little business pitch here because that's what we do, not as a business, but as a love, is that we create brand stories for people. And Troy and I, you and I, are writing our brand story now.
Exactly.
And, you can call it a brand story. We can also call it a business play, right?
Yep.
And all of the attempts that we make at whatever it is we do, whether we succeed or not, is all part of that backstory of how we're developing our legacy.
Exactly.
And because we are rather instinctive people, I would say, and very intuitive, we also practice giving into the notion of whatever, which gives us, it's like a playing field, is that, we don't limit ourselves. It's about as limited as the imagination, I would say.
Sure.
The only limit, are the limitations are the ones you put on it. Which defines a person or whatever. It's like words are limitations, right? So it defines a thing. And as we go through this, as preemptive, I might say, to our next session, where we will discuss the symbolic nature of what our logo means. And not that we hope that other people will like it or whatever, but it's symbolic to us and ever evolving, I might say. It's not just something in stone and you can't change it. As you and I develop our business, our thing, and what we do, instead of a business, we should just call it a thing. So you want to start a thing. It's like, okay, we can help you with your thing. It's a black thing or it's a white thing. And we plan to, or we hope to, maybe, and plan to have this symbol, this logo, represent our odyssey,
right?
Our brand story, our business play, having to deal with the limitations of those words as we conjured them, It can also be a trap because, when you put something into words, it dies. But if it's the living word, right, like it used to be, from people would, I don't know, around here, people have memorized the Bible. Sure. And it's like, okay, that wouldn't be my choice of a brand story because I know how it ends, right? Maybe we could insert a chapter or two, where I don't end up on the cross, or, some conflagration consumes the whole existence of mankind. Okay, we can talk about that in, Sumerian terms later on. So I believe that you caught me looking up WikiLeaks definition of the Aeneid. Have you read the Aeneid?
No.
It's one of they say the oldest poems, or it's by Homer. I don't know I forgot who wrote the Aeneid. I should know. Anyway, so there are 3 books that we refer to Western civilization and its roots, and they are the Iliad, where somebody steals somebody's girlfriend, he gets pissed off, and goes over to Troy and tries to recover his honor. And then you've got, all kinds of little subsections. Right. Achilles, played by Brad Pitt. It's pretty interesting. And so on. But the three books are the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid. And the Aeneid is principally the story of what happened to those people when they got kicked out of Troy. Well, to make the lesson complete, they went to found Rome. Okay. So then you had the Greeks who went and defeated the Trojans, who left Troy and went to, Italy, whatever it was called at the time, and established Rome, that went and conquered the Greeks, right? And a little circular thing. And that is really, I think, the most fascinating, when the translation is right, story of Western civilization. Because, you, like us, you can bring up something and then you click on it, right? And it takes you somewhere else. So you have this never-ending story that's so full. So, you and I, and people don't know this yet, but we'll talk about it. This whole thing really kind of started with this, an elixir. Yep. Right? Yep. And this has a long history, as you know. And it works. It's the elixir of eternal life, in case you want to order a bottle and you're Elon Musk or Bill Gates or somebody like that and can't afford it. No, you can't taste it first. And it's cash transaction, private business. Okay. But it's all part of what we're going to be talking about in terms of this logo, because it's a sequence of events. Yep. It includes things like Fibonacci. God, Troy, where do I even start? I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say that in our journey, I think it is extremely important, and if it's your journey too, I hope you can relate to this, is that your brand story is not written in stone. It's not a folk tale, right? Okay. That every time you tell it, the living word, it has a tendency to change a little bit, because we're not dogs yet, and the dogs are not barking at us yet. I mean, maybe, some things around here, but it's a story that we have constantly amended, amend, right? And we, rather than being disappointed at not coming to the point immediately, right? We don't charge by the hour, we charge by the job. Sure. And if the customer is really difficult to deal with, well, the price goes up, right? Okay. Yeah. It's like the mechanic, right? If you watch, it's $10. If you help, it's $50, right? This kind of thing. Exactly. And so ours in the living logo that I like to think, and I don't want to speak for you, is really symbolic. And I think you'll see that when you see the logo itself, a voyage of discovery.
Exactly.
Like one of our previous episodes in which we were talking about journeys, solutions, sailing, riding the keel. You know, it was, in a sense, the a sketch of our Odyssey. And I think I like to use the term men, right? That every man has his Odyssey, whether he fulfills it or not. You know, before, I think it's like Homer says that you become a shade in Hades, right? And live a life, an immortal life in hell, which has totally different meanings than what we today reverence in light of our religious learnings and so on, and what Pelosi's trying to do and so on, right? But she'll never make it. So it's the notion of, is what we want what is?
Okay.
And let me read this again, because I think this touches on what you said earlier.
Okay.
To dispel beliefs of what we were taught to believe. Thank you very much. You know, I don't want your COVID. You don't. It's not contagious necessarily unless I believe it is.
Right.
And if and when I believe it is, then, you know, I manifest my thoughts. So, you know, it's just that simple, I believe.
Right.
That, but it depends on how good you are at it, whether or not you're focused, and all these other little nudges and things that are going on in our life that are constantly changed and changing, depending on circumstances, where we are, who we are, what we're endowed with. Do we have any kind of spiritual leanings? You know, are you going to be that doctor your mom wanted you to be? And that whole conversation. Or do you manifest your own destiny?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all look at fate and destiny as two different words, right? But ultimately, you're the driver. And if you're not endowed with courage or some of these other principles, it's like Jordan Peterson says. He said that you don't want to lie because that throws everything off.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
That you should have the courage to tell whatever you consider to be the truth in the way in which you manifest the truth, or you don't stand a chance. Only because you are misrepresenting yourself and life to yourself.
Exactly.
Because you're creating a fantasy, which in some books they'll say is lying is the only true evil. Because you're just manufacturing something and calling it the truth when it's not.
Sure.
And it's nothing that people need to be, you know, absolutely riveted to. But just being honest with yourself, of course, first, will create the life that you live, not the one you missed.
Sure.
Which could be, speaking in dog speak, could be the spirits that those dogs are barking at.
I get it.
You know, sort of as like a reprimand.
Yeah.
You know, because every time I hear a dog bark, it's just, you know, just a notch off of English. I say, or what my brain hears is English, because I'm here, and dogs don't speak English, no matter how hard they try. And that's okay, because they're dogs, and that's what they do.
Right,
They
that's
bark.
right. Exactly.
So that's it. That's what I wanted to say. So
Yeah.
we begin another chapter of our voyage of discovery.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, while we're doing it in as honest a way as we can,
Mm-hmm.
and as we do, we manifest our lives differently than if we were absorbed with the idea that we got to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
These themes, of course, it's an ever-present theme. You can't escape it. But I think, we're sort of like apprentices in life, especially you and I,
Sure.
because I know you and I rather well. And we go about that until we become journeymen, right?
Right, right.
And, we've been together for about 5 years. It was the most incredible beginning. And that's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand, from many, many sources, the greatest thing that people can accomplish is a good story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning from my point of view, and I'm trying to direct the audience a little bit as well, which is like herding cats, as to what to expect. And it's primarily because, this is a showcase of your talent and ability to put things together, which you do extremely well, what I think. And from a more objective point of view than me, I'm sort of like, the electric goldfish, and you're the guy who can explain it to people.
Okay.
Which I hope you'll do. and I think you're excited about it anyway, about telling people about our voyage of discovery.
Exactly.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And it's manifestation or representation as our logo. I mean, yeah. What I see and experience is that, it becomes easier when you make these kind of acknowledgements to yourself and the world that there is a purpose. I mean, and the story, and like we're saying, dogs and cats, they know their purpose. Humans are still in this discovery phase, which is a gift. Actually, it's amazing that we can. At some point, kind of contemplate, okay, what do I want to do with my life? What do I feel is my drive, my purpose, my motivation? And it comes to these aspects of, looking at the story, looking at what's happened in the past, looking at what perhaps you'd like to manifest, and that's a great word. Because we've been given this. I mean, every human being has been given a possibility of what to explore and what to discover, and that's part of the fun. I mean, you see it in people. Let's talk about Elon Musk again. And he seems to know what he is doing. He has his purpose. He's not wondering, should I be here or should I not be here and doing this or that. He just does what Elon Musk does, just as a cat does what a cat does, and just as a dog does what a dog does. And getting to that space, I think, take some effort, take some thought, take some direction. And that's what, we're doing and continuing, but at the same time, opening the door and saying, hey, we found this elixir and it seems to be working. So if anybody wants to try it, come have a taste.
Oh, there were when I was in Taiwan, I had to go to the hospital to get something done, and it seems to me that doctors in Taiwan, from my experience, want to cure you.
Right.
Right. Because you get to what, 23 million people standing in line behind you, and they don't want to see you again.
Right.
They just cure you. And I forget what it was exactly what I was trying to get done, but I remember I talked to an administrator, a couple of other doctors, one that was treating me. I broke my leg and playing soccer, got kicked by a Brazilian. And they all came to a point, they said, you need to see the guy with the golden key.
Wow.
Meaning, I thought that was, and they were speaking English to me.
Yeah.
And I said, and he knew the reference immediately. I don't know whether it was because it had been used before or not about him, or that he was knowledgeable of it. But I still remember him cocking his eyebrow when I said to him, are you the guy with the golden key? He was like, yeah, I am.
Right.
It's sort of like, some kind of message, right? I'm here to deliver. And I'll tell you one story about that in a second, which should go down in posterity. And he acknowledged that he knew how to make something happen within the hospital system,
right,
within the government, within whatever it took. And I think that for him, that was his life achievement up until that point. Where that led him would depend on certain things, sometimes referred to as morality, right? How you use, how you manifest the talents that you've been given, and to what end, right?
Sure.
But I was happy to have that experience where I meet this guy. I still remember his face, just clear as day. And it was a real privilege to see a person who was doing what he wanted to be doing, and had found sort of like waking up in the morning and seeing the path that an earthworm has taken. You can see it in the dirt. Not to diminish anything about what he had chosen to do, but it was just that clear, that simple, that clear. Dogs bark, cats meow, right? That kind of stuff. And it was at a much higher level. And I think that his honesty and clarity of himself, which you were talking about, had led him in that path. And along with it, by following his path and acknowledging the discoveries that he made along the way, made him a fascinating person. That wasn't because, he knew what the square root of 11 was. You can look that up, right? Or find somebody else. But for him, and it was so simple, because he knew which button to press. He knew, why he got the name of the golden key.
Right.
And I think, if he had sought, to be chief administrator of, I don't know, National Health Service or whatever, then I don't think he would have achieved it as quickly as he did by simply, and this is a tough one, I got the impression that he was just being honest with himself without asking himself to be honest. It was like that earthworm. It's like, there's the trail, right? Earthworm was not motivated by anything, not by why it's migrating, who knows? But let's hope it, doesn't end up in the middle of the sidewalk when the sun comes up, or something like that. But it was life in its simplicity and at its highest level.
Wow.
And I was just knocked out, just totally impressed by that.
Yeah. Which it means that, I mean, it's possible and we see it. Sometimes it's rare to see, sometimes we see it often, but there are those reminders that just stand out, like the one you're talking about. And it shouldn't be. I mean, I'd like to see a world where it's not a rarity, where we can, be in this space where we know what we want to do and what we are doing, and we don't have to question it. It's everybody is just doing their thing and enjoying doing their thing. I mean, experiencing the enjoyment that comes with doing what you are. Well, I'm hesitating here because I was going to say doing what you're meant to do, but those words don't give it justice. It's like something, it's not what you're meant to do, it's just what you are here on this planet, on this existence, in this universe to do. And
Your destiny,
I mean,
you mean?
Yeah, it's like, destiny and all those aspects of, you mentioned destiny and fate, what you're fated to do, what your destiny is. And I mean, in some ways, I feel like I found my story about becoming a data scientist, and perhaps I'll tell that another time as well. But when I found that, I just wanted to pursue it. I found like now I know what to do. I'm going to pursue data science as a data scientist, and that was a big stepping up, or a stepping stone for me to know that this is the direction. And since then, I've been just enjoying so much more, because I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a lawyer, I don't want to be an astronaut. I am, whether I want to be or not, a data scientist, and this is what I do. And it's not just that I want to continue with that space for myself, but I want that to be experienced for others, like my children, for example. I want them to know what they feel or experience. I want them to experience that same level of clarity, because I see it. It's like, it's hard for, definitely, I mean, when I look at my kids, they're not sure what they're here for, or what their purpose is, or what they even want to do each day. And
what do you say to them?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, because of the language and the words losing its real essence, and my personal experience in not being able, well, I don't know whether I'm not able to communicate, or this is something new to me, and why I'm really enthusiastic with our partnership and our collaboration is around this storytelling, this identifying the brand, and building on that and communicating that. That's what I'm learning from us being together, and I haven't really been able to I guess I don't feel like I'm qualified or that good at, I mean, I'm stumbling over my words right now, which is kind of what I'm talking about. So I don't try to explain it, actually. I try to just do it and let my actions speak the words. And yeah, it's hard to, and I have tried, but it's almost like, from their reaction, it's like I'm preaching, and they're like, what do you know? Or I'm not, there's nothing, they're interested in hearing someone standing up and preaching and what the way is and how to, achieve fulfillment and purpose and direction. So I try just to do it rather than to talk to them about it and be that example as I live my own life.
I have a couple of comments on that, which I think is very interesting. I want to ask you, who are you talking to? Not the person, right? But who are you talking to?
Right.
Are you talking to yourself? Are you saying, as you speak, this, I know this is what I want to do, but I'm not, there's just so many different interpretations from what people hear as opposed to what you think you're saying, right? Because it's out of the context of your life and maybe theirs. Sure. And you're trying to do the right thing, help them out, the kids or whatever of yours, and you want the best for them, blah, blah, blah. But I think that what you want to say is beyond words.
That's right. That's it.
That to a great extent, you're the world's a stage, right? And we're all actors. That in displaying the genius of your job as an actor is not to try and convince anyone. Sure. That's we call that indicating, right? Where you're trying to indicate to people that you're an accountant. No, you can't do that. You have to be an accountant.
Sure.
And then or whatever, not act as it.
Right.
But and that's really the jewel in the crown. Is and there are several techniques. I think I exhausted Hollywood trying to find out, what those there could teach me or could share with me.
Right.
And that took a lot of stumbling along the way,
Sure.
And of course, nobody could tell me anything, and rightfully so. I'm not saying I'm exceptional in that area, but that's not their job to tell me anything.
Sure.
Right. And I didn't ask. So don't give. If it's, I think the most valuable stories are the ones that we hear that we weren't expecting or that we don't need, and that they are told innocently enough, maybe as a passing comment. And it doesn't have to be, a long soliloquy or monologue or something. Those moments can be captured, like with the Golden Key guy, right? Sure. That moment, that snapshot, of everything it took to dress that set.
Right.
Nobody paid anybody to do it as I was filming it in my head, but it had a very strong significance, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about Meyer when I started talking with him. It was just, I'm just sitting in my car, going out Saturday morning and grabbing myself a cup of coffee. And it's like, that was Bonnie Prince Charlie's roles before he got it. And it was like he responded because I had asked him, well, what kind of car are you driving? But there was no desire on my part, and still isn't, to get to know Meyer the rich guy. That doesn't interest me, but Meyer the person, sure. Right? That had come to me and was just chatting. The same way with Faza, right? It was like, you got something you want to talk about? I didn't, how are you going to charge somebody for something like that? You don't. It's not like let me help the old lady across the street and it'll be $5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have $5. All right, let's go back across the street. When you got $5, I'll help you. Gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really quite innocent.
Sure.
And I think that, we are being corralled into believing that there are things that we must do, which are collapsing left and right.
Sure.
Because we're being played with.
Sure.
And, maybe we play with other people too. It's like what the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could edit that and say the road to hell is paved with intentions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
You don't, an intention is different, I think, than the actual work.
Right.
Because the people I admire the most are people who do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember when I was in New York, it was like somehow I became the most attractive person, and I shared this with other people as well. When I was doing what I know what to do.
Exactly.
Watching, I wasn't in love with the woman. No, they weren't in love with me. It was just that sense of, I was absorbed in what I was doing without another acting thing, right? Mm-hmm. Without pretending to be absorbed in what I'm doing.
Right.
That's the second secret. Just do it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which Nike snatched, right? Mm-hmm. But that and a pair of shoes, sports shoes, a little something going on there, that seems contrived. So it doesn't have my imagination. Okay. I do remember the first time I saw it though in Petersburg, on a fence in English. Just do it. Right. Right. It's like, so I'm going through my album now, little snapshots and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a message in that somehow, in this voyage of discovery, right? Yep. What sticks out for you? If you're stuck on, getting rich, all right, my first question would be, what is that? Mm-hmm. What is getting rich to you? Mm-hmm. Well, it's having a lot of money. Money is it's a device, right? Mm-hmm. I said to Len a long time ago, I said, why do you want to work to get money to do something that you can do without money? It's like, when I get rich, I'm going to, and I said, you don't need money for that. The best things in life are free, right? Yeah. That's right. And then you lose what you're doing along the way because you're trying to earn money, which you don't know how to do, and you're always disappointed in the results you get, and blah blah blah. And it's like you're not doing what you want to be doing. You're not. You're setting, like I told that girl in one of my classes. I said, why are you letting money be an obstacle? Right. You can do, if you want to be sitting in a sidewalk cafe in Rome having an espresso, why are you letting money stop you? Exactly. Because if you wanted to do it badly enough, you'd find a way. That's right. Right. Which is behind, I think, all of those things that we have a dream about. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you're just a dreamer, not a doer. Maybe you don't want it badly enough. Sure. Because I believe that if you want something and you know what it is and you can write it down, you can have it, whatever. Yeah. But it's like you were saying, we get distracted so much. Yeah, everything. Oh, look at that. Look, chocolate. Wow, there's something. Oh, wow, look at that. That's meringue. That one's got a cherry. And I'm experiencing that now. I'm finding I'm adding another wing to my barn, right? I'm doing the work. And I said to myself, those things that I don't want to do, once I decide to do them, are the most captivating things that I ever have done. Right. And I'm not interested in analyzing why I'm having the reaction I am to doing them, because when I get into it, It just means for me today, slow down.
Right.
Like my sculptor friend in Petersburg said to me, don't be in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really realized the significance of his words,
Mm-hmm.
Until days like today, not so distant in the past, last 48 hours or whatever. And I'm working on it every day,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, if I slow down and stop thinking I should be finished with this,
Mm-hmm.
or why is that taking so long? It's like, I spend most of my time looking at it.
Sure.
And my brain, I guess my brain is like click, 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 click,
Mm-hmm.
analyzing it and figuring out and then when it comes down to the action,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a one word answer, because I'm working alone.
Mm.
Leverage.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, setting it, and this column itself is longleaf pine. It's like 150 years old. I took it off an old house they were tearing down.
Mm.
Long history, right?
Sure.
It's a beautiful piece of wood,
Right.
and I want to protect it from the weather. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to live and, and be there for years and years to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's in my care.
Right.
Right. And that's important to me.
Sure.
I don't want to disappoint myself, first of all, by doing something that is not my best.
Mm-hmm.
But like, get out, throw
Yeah.
him out, with the garbage,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not doing anything worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not caught up in this, I don't know, drug of achievement, but I'm a great achiever and I love it. I do things just to be able to achieve them.
Yeah.
Give me something impossible to do, please.
Right.
That which is, what is the saying? That which is possible has been done.
Mm.
That which is impossible will be done.
Right. Nice.
Okay. Want to end on that?
I do. That's beautiful.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, tomorrow's your day. I
Sure.
promise I'll have a big 4-inch wide piece of tape put across my mouth.
No way, man. We don't want that.
No.
But, yeah, we'll talk
Okay,
about.
but it's.
Yep.
I just want to know where you're going to start. You're going to start in Paro?
Yeah, I think so.
It's your.
Why not? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know where you're going. You have to end up with an octopus.
Exactly.
They don't grow them in Paro.
No. That's true. Okay.
Wonderful, Troy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Have a
Okay,
good
man.
night.
We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, man. Bye.